On the day of my business trip, I discovered my boyfriend's secret. He had a long, established Weibo account filled with his affection for another girl. He was willing to love her across more than 1,000 kilometers. Yet he wouldn't even consider a long-distance relationship with me over a mere 100 kilometers. He claimed that he disliked traveling far, but he had saved 213 long-distance train tickets for her. Amidst the countless things in the world, his greatest love was for Moo Moo, while I was Zhao Zhao. On the night of my business trip to Zhengzhou, I discovered my boyfriend's secret. My childhood friend, whom my boyfriend had sent to pick me up, accidentally let it slip at the welcome banquet. He mentioned that my boyfriend had a Weibo account with a considerable number of followers. It was originally an inadvertent comment, but as soon as the words were out, everyone at the table subconsciously looked at me. I was startled, yet my mind quickly caught the Weibo nickname. I casually diverted the topic, and everyone seemed visibly relieved. This made me even more suspicious. After returning to the hotel, I opened Weibo and started searching for the nickname I had just heard. After typing the complete nickname into the search box, I suddenly realized something. Pouring my heart out to Mingyue. My boyfriend's name was Jiang Zhe, and his first love was Qiao Mingyue. My fingers paused, and I subconsciously turned off the screen. Regarding Jiang Zhe's first love, my knowledge of her only rested on her being a high school classmate that Jiang Zhe had casually mentioned. After being with him, I didn't pay much attention to his past. However, the reactions of those people tonight made me somewhat curious. I took a deep breath, and still clicked on the Weibo homepage. When I saw the time of the latest Weibo post, I was suddenly stunned. It was a picture of the coconut chicken that Jiang Zhe and I had eaten together the day before my business trip. His caption was hot pot. It seems I should still go for the spicy one. But he clearly never ate spicy food. I subconsciously thought I had found the wrong account. However, after looking at the comment section, I was suddenly shocked. Haha, Jiang's taste has been influenced by Mingyue. Jiang, do you still remember that you couldn't eat spicy food at all? In the past, there was Lu Zhishan uprooting the weeping willow. Now there's Jiang having spicy hot pot for love. Have you noticed? Mingyue is wearing a skirt today. Ditto. This time, I'd call it a tough girl taking off her pants for love. The account owner didn't respond to any of these comments, nor did he deny them. I reluctantly enlarged the picture, hoping I had found the wrong account. But the corner of a skirt that was accidentally captured in the photo made me feel as if I had fallen into an ice cave. So it wasn't that he didn't eat spicy food. It was just that the person who could make him eat spicy food wasn't me. I scrolled down one post after another, and my heart grew colder and colder. After being with me, the frequency of his Weibo posts had obviously decreased, yet there were still quite a number. By 3 a.m., I had only finished reading about half of them. Clutching my phone, I looked out at the bustling, unfamiliar city outside the window, and suddenly felt at a loss. This was the place where all their stories had originated. It was filled with their memories. But what had I done wrong? I thought for a long time, but found no answer. My chest felt as if it was blocked by something. I wanted to cry but couldn't. Finally, at 3:30 a.m., with trembling hands, I dialed the number that I knew by heart. The phone rang for a while without a response. As my courage gradually dissipated, and I was about to hang up in a panic, the call was answered. Hello, what's wrong? Jiang Zhe's voice was extremely lazy, filled with thick sleepiness. A bit hoarse, it sounded particularly clear in the silent hotel room. But my manchanged indignation and questions just wouldn't come out. I was silent for a long time, carefully considering my words, but still couldn't say anything. Clearly, I was extremely disappointed, yet I subconsciously began to question myself. Was he really that wrong? He seemed to have done nothing. He just couldn't forget. I almost managed to convince myself. Zhao, do you miss me? Jiang Zhe's words were like the last straw that broke the camel's back. The turmoil in my heart suddenly subsided. Tears suddenly welled up. I replied, yes, Jiang Zhe. I miss you. Will you come to see me? In matters of love, I have always been a slow-witted and reserved person. I had been with Jiang Zhe for 3 years, yet when we held hands, I would still blush. When I heard him say, I miss you, after a long time, I would be too shy to speak. Jiang Zhe knew about this quirk of mine, so my straightforward answer probably surprised him. He was silent for a while before hesitantly consoling me. Zhao, be good. You'll be back in a week. I'll pick you up then, and take you to that coconut chicken restaurant you like so much. I hugged my knees, and my spine couldn't stop trembling. Jiang Zhe coconut chicken restaurants are everywhere, but I want to see you now. Aren't you on annual leave? Didn't you say you'd be bored at home when I'm on a business trip? Didn't you say you'd come to see me whenever I want to see you? Jiang Zhe, it's only a 2-hour flight from Shanghai to Zhengzhou. and only a 6-hour high-speed train ride. Can't you come to see me? Although I tried my best to control myself, my voice still carried a thick sobbing tone. And then, all that came in response was silence on the other end of the phone. I suddenly understood that only a child who has someone to comfort them has the right to cry. When my sobbing gradually stopped, Jiang Zhe's cold response came from the other end of the phone. Lin Zhao, have you had enough? You chose to go on this business trip yourself. I tried to persuade you. You chose this job yourself. I told you to quit, but you didn't listen. Lin Zhao, you're an adult. You should learn to be responsible for your choices. Yes, I should always be responsible for my choices. I silently wiped away my tears, as if also erasing my last trace of attachment to Jiang Zhe. On the other end of the phone, Jiang Zhe seemingly didn't notice the change in my mood. He offered an olive branch, waiting in silence for my response. After a long while, as if sensing that his tone had been a bit harsh, he sighed and started lecturing me in a tired voice. Zhao Zhao, regarding work and this business trip, I've done my utmost for you, so you shouldn't be angry with me. But I won't blame you. First, focus on your work well. Resign after you come back from the business trip and stay home. It's not like I can't support you. As I listened to his scolding and analysis, my thoughts gradually drifted away. After a moment I calmly said, Jiang Zhe, let's break up. Before Jiang Zhe could respond, I resolutely hung up the phone. When the entire room fell into silence, I suddenly felt a bit dazed. In my neither long nor short life, I, who was too timid to raise my hand even in class, had been brave only twice. Once was 3 years ago when I quit my job in Suzhou without hesitation, and went to Shanghai to find Jiang Zhe. The other time was just now when I took the initiative to break up with the man I had loved for 3 years. I moved out of the hotel that Jiang Zhe had booked for me overnight, and my phone never lit up again after it went dark. I thought Jiang Zhe was probably angry with me at the moment, angry that I woke him up in the middle of the night, angry that I was making trouble for no reason, and angry that I dared to take the initiative to break up with him. He had countless reasons to be angry, but he probably wouldn't be sad. After all, it was just losing someone he didn't love. What was there for him to be sad about? But wasn't it he who confessed first? My mind seemed to gradually fall into chaos, with bits and pieces of our time together constantly flashing through. In our 3-year relationship, although our love wasn't earth-shattering, it was quite stable. Every weekend, he would always accompany me to go shopping without getting tired, and then take me to watch 1 or 2 movies that had been extremely popular in the previous 2 years. I used to laugh at him, saying he was like a nostalgic old-fashioned cadre. He would always just smile and say nothing. In the first half of the year, under his arrangement, our parents met and successfully set the date for our marriage. When we were leaving, my mother pulled me aside and earnestly told me, Zhao Zhao, Jiang Zhe is a good boy. His parents seem to be reasonable people. Given our family's conditions, it's not easy to meet a family with good conditions and good sense. You must cherish this opportunity. I felt a bit uncomfortable hearing this, but I said nothing, and just smiled and nodded. Yes, what a great person Jiang Zhe was. In the 3 years we were together, he almost never quarreled with me, and had always been polite to my parents. Regarding this business trip, even though he was extremely reluctant for me to come, and was even rarely angry with me because of it, seeing that I was determined to come, he secretly booked the best hotel for me, and also contacted a local friend to come and pick me up. So was it my fault? If I hadn't searched for that Weibo account, would I never have known about Xiao Mingyue's existence? If I hadn't come to Zhengzhou, would the Jiang Zhe in my eyes still love me deeply? Unfortunately, there were no ifs. Unfortunately, I had never been Jiang Zhe's moon. After staying up all night to read all the content on Jiang Zhe's Weibo account, those moments when I thought Jiang Zhe loved me deeply had all turned into jokes. Every word in the account seemed to be silently laughing at me for being a fool. After reading everything, I lay in the bathroom, retching for a long time. I thought I probably didn't love Jiang Zhe anymore. When dawn broke, I gathered all my emotions, covered the fatigue in my eyes, picked up my bag, and prepared to go out. It was at this moment that Jiang Zhe's message arrived. Your little tantrum is over. I won't be angry with you anymore. My parents called me to talk about booking the wedding banquet, and want to get your opinion. You can tell me what you think first. After knowing everything, I seemed to be able to understand Jiang Zhe. There were reminders and olive branches in his words, but there was no love. I blocked all his contact information, rubbed my stiff face, and went downstairs with a proper smile. The person sent by the cooperation party was already waiting downstairs. Seeing me coming downstairs, he greeted me with a smile. It was a northeast boy named Su Ming. I had contacted him via WeChat before coming, but we weren't very familiar. As soon as he saw me, he grinned at me boldly. Sister Lin, welcome to Zhengzhou. I was a bit overwhelmed by his enthusiasm, and shook my head at him. Don't be so polite. Just call me Lin Zhao. Whether Su Ming heard me or not, he opened the car door for me on his own. On the way, Su Ming demonstrated what a real social butterfly was. After learning that I was 2 years younger than him, he scratched his head in embarrassment, and then changed his address to call me Little Lin. Most of the time, he was the one talking and I was listening. When he mentioned why I changed hotels in the middle of the night, before I could figure out how to answer, he convinced himself. That hotel is extremely expensive. Although we're not short of money, we don't want to be taken for a ride, right? Changing is good. It saves money. During the next hour-long journey, my ears never got a break. When we got out of the car, I felt a bit tinnitus and dazed. Perhaps because Su Ming and I seemed overly familiar, the contact person for the cooperation matters suddenly became Su Ming. The whole process, except for being a bit noisy, was relatively smooth. However, in the later stage, both parties were highly interested in cooperation. So inevitably, some more things were added, and my business trip had to be extended for another week. Since that text message, Jiangze hadn't contacted me again. This seemed to be his usual style. He would give me an olive branch, but would never bow to me. When I learned that my business trip time was extended, I subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. In a week's time, I still hadn't figured out how to face Jiangze. Most importantly, I still hadn't figured out how to tell my parents about our breakup. Thinking of these, I felt some invisible pressure weighing heavily on my head. I didn't want to retreat, yet I couldn't move forward either. At this moment, Su Ming suddenly appeared beside me with his hands in his pockets. He bumped me with his shoulder and said to me proudly, "Hey little Lin, business trips are boring, right? Come on, Brother Su will treat you to a movie." Hearing the word movie, I subconsciously shook my head to refuse. But Su Ming didn't care. He just grabbed my collar and urged me to go downstairs. Let's go, let's go. The others in the group are waiting for you downstairs. Little Lin, you can't be unsociable." In the end, looking at the group of men and women waiting downstairs, I still couldn't say no again. Su Ming said that life was already very bitter, so we should watch more comedies. So he overruled the majority and chose a newly released comedy. The movie was very good. From the beginning, there was continuous laughter in the entire cinema. And as I watched the hilarious scenes on the screen, the emotions I had suppressed for several days could no longer be contained. I burst into tears in the comedy screening hall. I desperately raised my hand to wipe away the tears, but the more I wiped, the more tears there were. When Su Ming turned his head to look at me, my face was already covered with tears. A look of surprise flashed across his face. He turned his head back, trying to act calm. When he noticed the strange expressions of the people around, he threw a pack of tissues at me, and then took off his coat and covered my head. He pretended not to care and taunted me. Little Lin, why is your sense of humor so low? How could you cry because of this lousy movie?" After the movie ended, Su Ming sent his colleagues away and sat beside me, waiting for everyone to leave. When everyone was gone, Su Ming patted my head. "Brother's going to the bathroom first. Remember to bring out brother's coat." When his whistling gradually disappeared, I looked up with tear-filled eyes, then quietly wiped away my tears, and took out the cosmetics in my bag to touch up my makeup. When I came out, Su Ming was standing in the hall waiting for me. As if nothing had happened, he took the coat in my hand and laughed at me, saying, "Short legs sure walk slowly." Then he stood in front of me and walked slowly. I followed behind him and whispered a thank you. Su Ming waved his hand without looking back. "Brother Su has plenty of money. Treating you to a movie is nothing." When we walked out of the mall, Su Ming, who was in front, suddenly stopped. I looked up and met Jiangze's eyes, who was blocking his way. As if declaring his sovereignty, Jiangze ignored Su Ming's inquiries and stared at me intently. "Zhao Zhao, come here." Looking at his twitching face, I didn't answer. I just forced an ugly smile at Su Ming. "Brother Su, you go back first. See you tomorrow." Su Ming sized me and Jiangze up and said nothing more. He just nodded and left. Jiangze was very dissatisfied with my performance and asked me in a cold tone, "Who is he?" I didn't answer and looked at Jiangze with a pretended calm, but my hands unconsciously clenched. Finally, in the confrontational intense atmosphere, I was the first to give in. "Jiangze, accompany me to watch a movie." Jiangze was startled, and then nodded with a sullen face. I turned around and went back to the mall, and bought 2 movie tickets for the movie we had just watched. Throughout the process, I didn't talk to Jiangze. He just silently followed me. We watched the movie expressionlessly, neither of us saying a word. When the end credits appeared, everyone stood up, and Jiangze's face was especially ugly. "Did you and him watch this movie just now?" I turned my head and looked at the anger almost overflowing from his face, and smiled brightly. "A movie for 2 people has been seen by a third person. Is it disgusting, Jiangze? What do you have to be angry about? Haven't you always treated me like this?" Whether Jiangze understood what I meant or not, he just pursed his lips and said nothing. When I stood up with a cold face and was about to leave, he suddenly grabbed my wrist. I felt a chill all over my body, and subconsciously shook off his hand. Jiangze looked at me with an incredulous expression in his eyes. He moved his lips, seemingly wanting to say something, but in the end, he just told me with a calm face, "Zhao Zhao, we're going to get married." At this moment, the heaviness in my heart was no less than that night when I learned all the truth. So he knew that what he was doing was wrong. So he knew how much of an insult this behavior was to me. He clearly knew everything, but he still did it. So he not only couldn't forget, but every moment he was with me, he was constantly reminiscing about their past. 3 years of relationship was actually just a memorial to another relationship. At this moment, anger, humiliation, and powerlessness, all kinds of complex emotions welled up in my heart. My eyes were extremely sore, but I couldn't cry anymore. I didn't know whether I should first resent Jiangze, or feel sorry for my 3-year youth and emotions. I looked at him, and somehow laughed. "Jiangze, what on earth do you take me for? For you, what does our marriage mean? Is it compensation for fooling me around for 3 years, or a demonstration to Qiao Mingyue? Jiangze, since you love her so much, why did you come to provoke me?" I questioned him one by one, as if trying to vent all my grievances and humiliations in this way. But Jiang Zhe in front of me was still as calm as ever. My heart-wrenching pain seemed to have no impact on him at all. He looked at me as if I were a stranger. It turned out that loving someone could really be feigned. Or perhaps he had never even pretended to love me. It was just a tiny bit of affection he casually discarded. And I, having picked it up, thought I had entered his entire world. All the accusations and unwillingness seemed meaningless. I still stared at Jiang Zhe in a standoff. But this time it was not me who backed down. I watched as his fist clenched and then relaxed. After several hesitations, he finally said, Lin Zhao, if I still wanted to get back together with her or have lingering feelings for her, would there have been any chance for you in these 3 years? I finally couldn't hold back and slapped him across the face. Jiang Zhe's head tilted slightly, and a patch of red quickly spread on the slapped area. His eyes were filled with shock. Yes, in his eyes, I should be the gentle and delicate one. The little girl who was too timid to say a word even when she missed the elevator floor, rather than the shrew who was now shouting hysterically and hitting people in public. He probably forgot from what kind of environment I had struggled to emerge. Lin Zhao had never been a pushover. I silently hid my numb, tingling hand behind my back and gave him a mocking smile. Jiang Zhe, I've wanted to hit you for a long time. Clearly, you did something disgusting. Why do you still act as if you're granting me the chance to forgive you? For 3 years, you took me to watch the movies you watched with her, took me to eat the food you once ate with her. Even the anniversary gifts were exactly the same as those you gave her. Jiang Zhe, do you know how disgusted I am? Finally, a faint ripple appeared in Jiang Zhe's eyes as he looked at me. He took a step forward, trying to hold my hand, but I dodged it first. However, he wasn't annoyed. Instead, he stared at me with a loving expression. Zhao Zhao, believe me, it's over between me and her. She did come back to me, but I refused every time. Zhao Zhao, everyone has a past. Why do you have to hold on to this at this critical moment? You just need to know that the person I'm going to marry now is you and only you. I looked into Jiang Zhe's eyes, and felt that he was now completely transparent to me. At this moment, it seemed as if I could easily see through his true intentions. Just like now, even in such a situation, what Jiang Zhe wanted to maintain was still only his own dignity. I took a few steps back, and made my final farewell. Jiang Zhe, I will never marry you, never. I don't want that tiny bit of affection you've been doling out. I won't tell anyone about this, but I also hope you won't pester me anymore. Let's part ways amicably. In the future, you can continue to like your Mingyue, and I just want to be myself again. Whether it was Jiang Zhe's actions, or the 3 years when I was completely fooled, neither was something to be proud of. I originally wanted to end this decently, but Jiang Zhe just wouldn't let me go. As soon as I returned to the hotel, my parents' call came. As soon as the call connected, there was a barrage of scolding from the other end. Lin Zhao, have you had enough of the good life? So what if Jiang Zhe has an ex-girlfriend? They're not in contact, and they haven't done anything excessive. What are you doing? The news of your marriage has been announced to all relatives and friends. Now it's common knowledge. Do you think you can just call it off? You may not care about your reputation, but your mother and I still care about our old faces. Let me tell you, we've already recognized Jiang Zhe as our son-in-law. If you dare to break up with him, we'll act as if we never had a daughter. When I pressed the hang-up button, the whole world became quiet. But this matter didn't end there. In just one night, everyone in Jiang Zhe's and my social circle seemed to know about it. Overnight, I received countless messages persuading us to reconcile. It seemed that in everyone's eyes, Jiang Zhe's nostalgic behavior, without any actual actions, didn't even count as cheating. Everyone was telling me that everyone had a past, and was persuading me to be magnanimous, and not be stubborn. They were even touched by Jiang Zhe's so-called deep affection. But no one cared about what I had endured in this. After blocking all those who tried to reconcile us one by one, I just felt extremely exhausted both physically and mentally. Clearly, I wasn't the one who had done something wrong, but in the end, I was the only one suffering under the moral yoke. In this public condemnation, as the only victim, I became the only defendant. Just before I was driven crazy by everything, I met an unexpected person. Jiang Zhe's childhood friend, who had accidentally let the cat out of the bag, took the initiative to ask for a meeting. Surprisingly, he didn't defend Jiang Zhe like the others. He just smiled at me apologetically. Brother Jiang asked me to come and explain to you, but I don't regret it. You have the right to know the truth. It's only fair to you. I didn't know what kind of emotion to use to face him, so I could only force a smile at him and say thank you. But he shook his head and revealed an even more shocking truth. Every one of us knew about Brother Jiang and Mingyue. From the very beginning, we all understood that Brother Jiang could never let go of Mingyue. In fact, before you showed up, we were all betting on when they would get back together. I paused and couldn't help but retort. What about after I showed up? He was startled but answered very frankly. We were betting on when you would discover the truth. I sneered. Your character really lives up to being Jiang Zhe's best friend. He still smiled frankly. A bunch of scoundrels? Naturally, we're all the same. Looking at his smile, a strange thought suddenly flashed through my mind. You like Xiao Mingyue? His smile froze, but he also answered straightforwardly. Yes. So you deliberately let it slip, right? Also for Xiao Mingyue, I pressed. A bitter smile appeared on his lips, and his tone was a bit hesitant. Yes. If you hadn't discovered this, you two would have gotten married. By then Mingyue would have gone crazy. His candor left me a bit speechless. In the end I just said calmly, essentially, you're the same as Jiang Zhe, both scum. His smile suddenly disappeared, but his tone remained calm. Yes, we're both scum, but the moon doesn't shine on me. Since Mingyue likes him, I have to create an opportunity for him with my own hands. Looking at the affection on his face, I just felt extremely disgusted. Your so-called deep affection is really disgusting. He smiled indifferently. Thanks for the compliment. But compared to all their stories and the reason for their breakup, you should be more interested in that, right? I thought that at this moment, Jiang Zhe had already become a stranger to me, and all I was doing was listening to a stranger's love story. But after hearing the whole story, my heart wasn't as calm as I had imagined. However, it was just a bit perturbed. In the following days, I still went about my work as usual, and took the time to block all those who tried to reconcile us. After my parents' calls also ended up in my blacklist, Jiang Zhe seemed to have lost all his trump cards. So he finally came to me on his own initiative. In the coffee shop, the dark circles under his eyes were impossible to hide, and he no longer had his usual calm demeanor. In my eyes, he used to be a very mature and steady person, because no matter what problems I had, he could calmly analyze them for me, and never showed a trace of panic. But until now, I finally understood that he wasn't mature and steady. He just didn't care. He pinched the corner of the coffee cup, and his tone was a bit heavy. Lin Zhao, I just can't forget her. Am I really so wrong that you're so heartless that you won't even give me a chance? Besides, apart from not being able to forget her, have I ever done anything to let you down in these 3 years? Haven't I been good enough to you? Listening to his painful accusations, my heart didn't waver at all, just like he used to be. Jiang Zhe, those few movies you watched over and over again every month, were you watching the movies or your past? You said you don't like long-distance relationships. The distance from Suzhou to Shanghai is only over 100 kilometers, and you thought it was far. But do you remember how far it is from Gansu to Zhengzhou? Over 1,000 kilometers. Despite such a long distance, you still loved her for so long. You said you don't like traveling far. For just an hour-long drive, you weren't willing to come and see me. But because she said she missed you, you took a 16-hour hard-seat train to see her. It took 36 hours for a round trip almost once a week, and you were never late. Jiang Zhe, how did you love me? With those more than 200 hard-seat train tickets? When she shed a tear, you felt heartbroken, and said you wanted to spoil her like a child. But when it came to me, shedding tears became a sign of immaturity. Jiang Zhe, where was your love and kindness to me? Can you even see it? My words seemed to hit Jiang Zhe's sore spot. His lips moved several times, but he never managed to say a word of rebuttal. Finally, perhaps after thinking over all the words, there was only one sentence left. Zhao Zhao, no matter what my past with her was like, the person I want to marry now is always only you. This pale retort made me couldn't help but laugh out loud. But I just couldn't feel happy at all. I stared fixedly into his eyes, and finally dug out the most despicable thought in his heart. Jiang Zhe, is it really that hard to admit that you don't love me? You never wanted to marry me. As long as the person doesn't drink, doesn't go to nightclubs, and doesn't have a group of Yixing around, as long as the person is nothing like Qiao Mingyue, anyone could be the one you want to marry. You chose me just because I don't laugh much, don't cause a ruckus, and don't throw tantrums, and I'm the least like her. Jiang Zhe, I once thought you loved me a little, but you just loved her more. In the end, I'm not even a substitute. You can't forget her, and you can miss her. But why did you drag me in to be a human-shaped stand or a background wall in your memories? I used the calmest tone to voice my biggest accusation against Jiang Zhe. Jiang Zhe, you've deceived me so badly. In the end, Jiang Zhe looked at me coldly and only said one word, sorry. I suddenly found it funny. For 3 years, who on earth had I been in love with? Finally, on the day I moved out of Jiang Zhe's house, he still tried to keep me. Zhao Zhao, can you not leave? Until today, you're still the perfect person to marry in my heart. I looked at him and smiled slightly. I really am, but you don't deserve me. In fact, you don't deserve anyone. On the surface, you seem to love Qiao Mingyue so much that everyone knows, and you're unable to extricate yourself. But actually, just because her actions of going clubbing and drinking went against your wishes, you thought she had let down all your kindness to her. You felt that your love had been betrayed and belittled, so you were so determined to break up with her. Even though she begged you so many times, you still refused to get back together with her. But why did you take those old train tickets and accidentally meet her? Let her see those things and think that she saw evidence that you still loved her, and that there was still hope for you too. You maintained an image of being deeply in love and non-replaceable to everyone. But in fact, you don't love anyone. You only love yourself the most. People like you don't deserve to be in a relationship, let alone get married. You're only fit to be alone for the rest of your life. After listening to all my accusations, some subtle emotions appeared on Jiang Zhe's face. He mumbled for a long time and finally weakly uttered a few words. Zhao Zhao, even if you don't like me anymore, you can't talk to me like this. Jiang Zhe, put away your hypocritical and fake, affectionate, disgusting face. I've had enough of it. I coldly said my final farewell to Jiang Zhe. Never see each other again, scum. My breakup with him almost became known to everyone. Before Jiang Zhe entered a new social circle, probably no normal acquaintance would date him. Of course, there were also some girls who were touched by his so-called deep affection, and had thrown him an olive branch, but Jiang Zhe rejected them all. It seemed that the object of his nostalgia had changed from Qiao Mingyue to me. However, I only felt disgusted by all of this. I rejected his repeated attempts at reconciliation, and also declined his request to remain as ordinary friends. I didn't leave Shanghai, but instead changed to a new job. The new job was extremely busy, involving frequent business trips and overtime work, yet the salary was quite high. During this period, my parents called to persuade me. They still believed that missing out on someone like Jiang Zhe with his conditions was my regret. But when I sent them my large amount payslip, they suddenly fell silent. I tried my best to ask that question calmly, yet my voice still choked. Mom and Dad, your daughter isn't that bad, right? In the end, I didn't receive an affirmation but only got a response like, just because your salary is high, don't get too complacent. Since the family can't help you much, you should save money. I seem to have gotten used to such conversations, yet my heart still couldn't help twitching. Yes, it's better to get used to it. I got used to everything, except for Su Ming, who suddenly appeared beside me. He was simply too noisy. I thought I would probably never forget the first words he said when he appeared in front of me after coming to Shanghai. Where's little Lin? Brother Su wants to have a relationship with you. Their story. Jiang Zhe and Xiao Minghua got to know each other in high school. They were deskmates for 3 years, and Jiang Zhe was bullied by her for 3 years. At that time, Jiang Zhe had excellent math grades, while Xiao Minghua's math was a complete mess. After Jiang Zhe got his INF 130+ score, Xiao Minghua suddenly asked Jiang Zhe to tutor her. As a reward, she would bring some snacks from home for Jiang Zhe every day. Although it was a tutoring session, Xiao Minghua never listened carefully. She would stare intently at Jiang Zhe's face while he was explaining the problems. Every time Jiang Zhe asked if she had learned it, she would always pretend to nod sincerely. But when the test papers were handed out, the questions were always wrong. Whenever this happened, she would pinch and hit Jiang Zhe, acting like a complete rascal. She would always ask, why did I get it wrong again? Do you not want to teach me and deliberately teach me badly? Many such things happened. At first, Jiang Zhe was extremely bothered, but after a long time, he seemed to suddenly get used to it. They officially established their relationship on a weekend. Xiao Minghua said she would treat Jiang Zhe to a meal, but required him to bring the math test paper. During the tutoring process, Xiao Minghua, as always, didn't like to listen. But while listening, she suddenly kissed Jiang Zhe on the corner of his mouth. After his first kiss was suddenly taken away, Jiang Zhe was stunned. But before he could say anything, Xiao Minghua blushed and started acting like a rascal first. She said, Jiang Zhe, you have to take responsibility for me. So they got together. After the college entrance examination, Jiang Zhe chose Lanzhou Gansu, while Xiao Minghua stayed local. They would have long video calls every day, as if they had endless things to talk about. In Jiang Zhe's eyes, Xiao Minghua was always a sensitive and childish person. However, during that period, this child seemed to suddenly become strong. But how could a child not be sad when wronged? So when she was laughing and then suddenly cried, saying she missed him, Jiang Zhe panicked. To save money, he bought a hard seat ticket back to Zhengzhou on Friday afternoon. 16 hours of torment was just to see her. From then on, Jiang Zhe would go back to Zhengzhou every month. At the least twice a month, and at the most 4 times a month. He kept running back and forth like this for 3 years, to the extent that the classmates and friends around Xiao Minghua knew about him, and his classmates in his class said he was a fool. But he didn't care. He would take part-time jobs as a tutor, and help others with their homework in his spare time, just to save the travel expenses to see her. Jiang Zhe really loved Xiao Minghua, but when they broke up, he was really resolute. The reason for the breakup was that he didn't like Xiao Minghua drinking. To be precise, he didn't like her going to places like bars, KTVs, and nightclubs to drink. Every time Xiao Minghua went, he would get angry. After Xiao Minghua repeatedly refused to change, Jiang Zhe suddenly felt betrayed. He thought he had never done anything to let Xiao Minghua down. He had tried his best to satisfy everything she liked and wanted, and he had never done anything she didn't like. But perhaps because Xiao Minghua thought Jiang Zhe loved her desperately, she turned a blind eye to the chances Jiang Zhe gave her. Until later, Jiang Zhe left without mercy. No matter how much he begged, he never looked back. It was also at this time that Xiao Minghua seemed to realize that she was really wrong. She got rid of all her bad habits, but Jiang Zhe still never turned back. He seemed to get a sense of revenge. He thought people should understand the value of something only after completely losing it. So no matter how regretful and reluctant he was, he never wanted to turn back. 1 year after the breakup, Jiang Zhe saw the mature Xiao Minghua in their favorite snack shop. She was carrying the bag that Jiang Zhe had knitted for her with his own hands. And inside were all the tickets from when Jiang Zhe came to see her. She tried to move Jiang Zhe with the thick stack of tickets, but she didn't know that this made Jiang Zhe feel even more that leaving her was the right choice. His leaving had brought Xiao Minghua's attention and cherish for all his efforts. He was satisfied with this situation. From then on, as if to take revenge on Xiao Minghua, Jiang Zhe suddenly announced that he liked girls with good temper and gentleness. He said his future partner would definitely be someone completely different from the former Xiao Minghua. And that person couldn't be the current Xiao Minghua either. He said that if anyone dared to make him travel more than 1,000 kilometers to see them, he would definitely scold that person severely. It seemed that he had done everything he said, but the only one who was disgusted was me. Epilogue of Su Ming. When I first met little Lin, there was a distance of nearly 1,000 kilometers between us. At that time, the impression he gave me was that he was polite and a bit distant, which was quite in line with my impression of a successful career woman. Moreover, in the half month after we became friends, except for confirming the time in the hotel. He didn't say another word to me. Until that early morning, he suddenly sent me a WeChat message, saying he had changed hotels. When I saw him the next day, I was actually shocked. Whether it was his non-aggressive appearance or the red bloodshot eyes, he was completely different from what I had imagined. When I saw such a small figure walking towards me against the wind, I was even a little worried that he might be blown away. But apart from his appearance, he was the same as when we chatted, polite and distant. The atmosphere in the car was very awkward. I racked my brains to think of some topics that weren't too abrupt, trying to talk to him. But he always looked out of the window in silence, or looked at his phone a bit dejectedly. However, when it came to work, that sharpness and decisiveness seemed to make him a different person. Except for work-related communication, he seemed to isolate everyone from his world. Every time after work, looking at his small, solitary figure in the setting sun, I suddenly felt that Jung-jo was too big and could easily submerge him in the crowd. When I could easily spot him in the crowd, and when I found that I was actually staring at him in a daze, I suddenly realized that I seemed to be in love. When I realized this thought, I couldn't sleep all night. I thought all night, counting the reasons why I liked little Lin. Perhaps it was because he was really cute. The people in the group always privately said that he was the type of the most beloved daughter-in-law of a mother. But I thought he had the face of my future wife. Perhaps it was because he was really excellent. He was always the first one to arrive at the company alone every day, never slacked off during working hours, and always did things in an orderly manner. Perhaps it was because he really seemed to need someone to protect him. In his spare time, he always stared blankly at something for a long time, and was often blown to tears by the wind. With his red-rimmed eyes, he looked very easy to be bullied. If there wasn't a strong person like me to protect him, he would definitely be bullied, right? Perhaps this was love at first sight. It was also at this time that my just sprouted feelings encountered the biggest setback in my life. I suddenly realized a problem. Could little Lin accept a long-distance relationship? Although the distance from Zhengzhou to Shanghai was less than 1,000 kilometers, although I could go to see her every week, and although I would definitely give her a strong sense of security, it was still a long-distance relationship. I thought for a long time and finally came to a satisfactory answer. A person as excellent as me is a chosen one wherever I go. Hehe. I'm going to Shanghai to have a sweet relationship with little Lin, where we can see each other every day. Then another problem came. How could I let him know? I thought all night, and decided to start by changing the way I addressed him. After all, everyone in the company called him little Lin. I couldn't be the same as them. Loving him naturally means being different. But what should I call him? Little Chow was too unfamiliar. Chow. Baby was too frivolous. Lin. Lovely seemed a bit cheesy. Zhao Zhao. Yes, just call him Zhao Zhao. Just as cute as he is. So I practiced all night, learning the affectionate and magnetic voice described in the novels that girls love the most, preparing to amaze everyone as soon as I opened my mouth the next day. For this, I deliberately came to the company early, and waited at the office door. I silently posed in what I thought was the most handsome way, silently reciting that affectionate and charming address in my heart. Finally, under little Lin's confused gaze, I affectionately called out, "Little Lin." Well, let's just say I was too nervous and my tongue slipped. It was at this time that little Lin looked up and stared at me seriously for a few seconds. Just when I thought he had discovered my surging secret love, he spoke. He asked, "Brother Su, do you have a cold? Why is your voice so hoarse?" Well, at least he cared about me. So I was half successful, right? The only regret was that I followed him for several days, but still couldn't call out that Zhao Zhao. It was definitely not because I was timid, and of course not because I was shy, mainly because my charm and uniqueness didn't need to be set off by an address. But if I didn't say it soon, little Lin would really leave. When little Lin's business trip was extended, I knew that little Lin and I were definitely a match made in heaven. After all, even heaven was helping us. To not let this hard-won opportunity go to waste, I decided to take the initiative and invite little Lin to watch a movie. To prevent little Lin from being scared by my direct approach, I deliberately invited the whole group. In the end, unfortunately, my charm was too great. Everyone in the group except little Lin agreed. Just like that, the carefully planned sweet date turned into a group team building. But when I grabbed the seat beside little Lin, everything else didn't matter. Of course, it would be better if there weren't the chattering and gossiping female colleagues behind us. I never expected that little Lin would cry while watching a comedy. What kind of lousy comedy is this? How could it make someone cry? After it's over, I must give it a bad review on Douban. When I handsomely covered little Lin's head with my clothes, during that entire time, I was very glad that I sprayed perfume today. The stench of sweat on my body definitely wouldn't reach little Lin. But little Lin really cried for a long time. Alas, it made me so shintung. Indeed, little Lin couldn't do without me. Unfortunately, after the movie ended, I felt like I was broken-hearted. It turned out that the address Zhao Zhao had already been used. No wonder I couldn't call it out. It seemed that I had to think of another address. But did I still have a chance to call out those addresses? Was the person today the culprit who broke little Lin's heart? He was such a jerk. Little Lin was so nice. How could he bear to make him so sad? I really wanted to snatch little Lin back. But what if little Lin still liked him? Although I'm taller, more handsome, like little Lin more, and can spoil little Lin better than him, I've never been little Lin's boyfriend. I thought of all the obstacles on the path of my relationship with little Lin, but I never thought that little Lin would have a boyfriend. I won't cry for a long time, just a month or two. I never thought that one day I would be so grateful to that group of chattering and gossiping girls in the office. When they asked little Lynn if the person yesterday was her boyfriend, I passed by them nonchalantly 5 or 6 times. Finally, I heard little Lynn say, "We've already broken up." Well, how should I put it? On the surface I was calm, but actually I was extremely happy inside. Alright, I have to continue thinking about how to address little Lynn. Unfortunately, before I could figure it out, little Lynn's business trip ended. When seeing her off, I finally only called out that little Lynn. For this, I only cried for a few days after returning to the office. I wasn't really that sad at all. A month after little Lynn left, I heard the whole story of little Lynn from the gossiping female colleagues, and learned that he had changed jobs to a new company. How should I put it? I just felt very shintung. Of course, there was also a lot of hatred. I hated that ex-boyfriend for doing such a disgusting thing. What if little Lynn didn't like boys because of him? What should I do? How much does a plane ticket to Thailand cost? Is it too late for me to become her sister now? After seriously thinking for another month, I felt that I still liked little Lynn, the kind of liking that I couldn't give up. Finally, I resigned and went to Shanghai to find him. I spent a whole month thinking of a new address for little Lynn, calling him Chower, inspired by Guer in The Return of the Condor Heroes. Finally, I knocked on little Lynn's door with trembling hands. P.S. It was definitely because the weather in Shanghai was too cold, not because I was nervous. After seeing little Lynn's familiar face, I finally said the words that I had been in Dao for a month. "Where's little Lynn? Brother Sue wants to have a relationship with you." Oh damn it. My tongue slipped again. It really ruins things. But why did little Lynn cry? Was I so ugly that I scared him? I fumbled around for a long time, but couldn't find where the tissues were. Finally, I could only anxiously explain to him, "Don't cry. If you don't want to, then forget it. I'm not forcing you. I'm just asking." Finally, little Lynn choked and told me that I was very much like him when he first came to Shanghai. I thought he was talking nonsense. After all, except for being cuter, more good-looking, more excellent, more hard-working, more serious, and shorter than me, he wasn't as excellent as me at all. Finally, little Lynn still didn't agree to me. He said he wasn't ready to accept a new relationship. Although I've never been in a relationship, I understand. A person as excellent and hard working as me will definitely win over little Lynn in time. One day, I will call out all the addresses I've thought of for little Lynn completely. By then I definitely won't have a slip of the tongue. Also, I've decided that when little Lynn and I get married, I must invite that ex-boyfriend. I want to call out all those addresses in front of him. After all, he only called Zhao Zhao. I'm the man who will call little Lynn wife in the future. The sky is gradually brightening, and Zhao Zhao will always be in my heart. The end.